Neither presidential nor debate are the right words to describe whatever it was we witnessed between Donald Trump and Joe Biden last night. Over 90-plus minutes of chaos, crosstalk, and actual begging from moderator Chris Wallace to get the president to stop interrupting. There were plenty of troubling moments. But among the most concerning was this exchange toward the end of the night when Wallace asked both men if they would urge supporters to stay calm while votes are being counted and pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified. And Trump responded with this.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election.
So in short, not only is Trump once again trying to question the legitimacy of the entire election, he's also, it seems to me, encouraging voter intimidation. Of course, the president has been trying to undermine the election for months now, with claims of rampant voter fraud, despite assertions like this from his own FBI director.
We have not seen, historically, any kind of coordinated national voter fraud effort in a major election, whether it's by mail or otherwise.
Trump's team has also filed lawsuits against election officials in several states over the details of their mail-in programs. So far, though, judges have tossed out such complaints in Nevada, but cases are still pending in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Montana, and North Carolina. And in Iowa, some 80,000 voters had to re-request their mail-in ballots after Trump's team successfully sued local officials for sending out ballot applications with some information already filled out, including voter ID numbers. And then there's the disaster with the U.S. Postal Service, which made a series of so-called operational changes in recent weeks, like removing hundreds of public mailboxes and fast mail sorting machines and limiting schedules that have caused delays for all mail. More than 20 state attorneys general have since sued Postmaster General Louis DeJoy to temporarily block changes. And over the last 2 weeks, federal judges in Washington state, D.C., New York, and Pennsylvania have granted such requests. That Pennsylvania suit, by the way, was filed by the AG there, along with 6 others, including Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey, who joins me now. Attorney General, it's good to see you.
It's great to be with you, Jim.
By the way, if people think this is weird that I'm at home and you're at WGBH, it is weird, but we'll move past this. We're going to discuss the shout-out Trump gave to the Proud Boys last night a little bit later in the show. I want to talk to you about the other solicitation when he said he was urging his supporters to go to the polls, I want to get the words right, to watch very carefully. Now, I know it's not much of an issue in a state like this that he's not going to win, but you're the co-chair of the Democratic Attorney Generals Association of America. What are attorney generals doing in general to assure that there's not large-scale voter intimidation at the polls?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. We're making it very clear to the public in our states that it is a crime to engage in voter intimidation or election interference. We want that reported to our offices, and we will prosecute people who engage in that. A couple weeks ago, I actually had to put out an advisory to make clear to the public that Donald Trump, he made this comment on Fox, on Sean Hannity's show, saying that he was going to send police and deputies and military and sheriffs, and AGs, to the polls. Again, this was an attempt at intimidation of the voters. It's a crime. Moreover, he has absolutely no power to do that. But understandably, people were concerned. So, Jim, we're getting the message out that voter intimidation is illegal, and that as the chief law enforcement officers in our states, we're going to stand up and make sure that people are able to exercise freely their right to vote.
Can we talk about another issue that isn't, well, maybe on Trump, who knows? We learned in the last 24 hours from the Secretary of State that 18,000 mail-in ballots were disqualified in this state, even though we've been bragging that mail-in works so well here. According to the Secretary of State, about 8,000 of those, almost half, was because they arrived late. Do we have any idea if they arrived late because voters were delinquent in sending them in, or if the fears that you and other attorneys general have about the Postal Service are coming to fruition?
Well, let me tell you the good news. First off, we attorneys general, the Democratic AGs, have gone to court. As you mentioned, I joined with my colleague in Pennsylvania. We've gotten nationwide orders that forced DeJoy to undo the damage that he's done and to restore the regular operation of the post office. So mail-in ballots, for example, will get the priority mail that they're deserving of. So that's the good thing. With respect to our own state, and I've been in touch with the Secretary of State himself, and our teams work together. I actually feel very good, Jim, about the state of things. We went through this extraordinary experience in the primary, tons of mail-in ballots counted. I think that whatever concerns there were have been worked out, quite frankly, and we're talking about a relatively minimal number of ballots for which right now I'm not entirely sure what happened with respect to each individual ballot, but I do feel very confident that the Secretary of State has this well in hand, that our town and city clerks do as well. I'll also encourage people, though, Jim, to go and make your plan to vote now. Make a plan. Vote early in person if you can. Right now, you can apply to get a mail-in ballot. Do that. And don't wait to send it in. We want to make sure that we get those mail-in ballots in as soon as possible, because everybody not only deserves the right to vote, but also to make sure that their vote is counted. And getting those in sooner will help ensure both of those things.
Let's change gears if we can for a second, Attorney General. Last Friday, you announced you were filing criminal neglect charges against two former leaders at the Holyoke Soldiers' Home, where at least 76 veterans died of COVID-19 earlier this year, after your office determined, quote, substantial errors and failures there likely worsened the outbreak, in particular the decision to combine two dementia units into one and putting beds in a dining room just a few feet apart with symptomatic and asymptomatic residents right next to each other. I want to be clear. You, I believe, said at the date that that's it for the prosecutions, meaning unless new evidence comes to light, the medical director and the guy that ran the place, that's it in terms of prosecutions. Is that accurate?
That's right. And that's because they were the decision makers. I mean, responsibility lies with them. This was a horrific and tragic situation. I started last Friday, Jim, before we did that press conference. I spent about an hour on a Zoom call with family members who lost loved ones. 76 veterans died. It was outrageous, and based on our investigation, it warranted criminal prosecution. Ours is the first COVID-related prosecution of a nursing home or long-term care facility personnel in the country. But that's how serious this is. And as I said before, Jim, if more evidence or information comes to light and others are involved, we'll take it as far as we need to take it. But my heart goes out to those families.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to take another angle, though. At the press conference, when you announced the charges, you were asked a couple of times about the Baker administration, and on each occasion you praised the reforms that they have implemented, appointments they have made. But in June, right after their own investigation, the Baker administration's own investigation was released. It was done by Mark Pearlstein, a former prosecutor. Here's what you said. The report reveals, Pearlstein's report, the report reveals that serious failures by leadership at the home contributed to the tragic loss of life there. Here's what I wanted to bring up. It also lays bare systemic failures of oversight by the Baker administration in adequately preparing, staffing, and responding to the crisis to protect our veterans. So, Attorney General, in light of that statement in June, should we assume you were wrong then, that not only is there no criminal responsibility on the part of anybody in the Baker administration, there was no relevant failure, to use your words, on their part either?
No, in fact, I was right. And you know, here's what happened. And we opened a criminal investigation as early as April. I mean, right after the news broke. And that criminal investigation resulted in the prosecution of those two individuals. Now, separately at that time, everybody, including our office, you know, we were asked about the state of what is a state-run facility. And I think that what we've learned, and what I said at the time, is that there were obviously problems there that needed to be addressed. And I appreciate that the governor put someone new in charge right away. His team also proposed a number of reforms that have been implemented. It's not to say there isn't more work to do, but it's just to say that, yes, one, this was an issue about exactly how this whole facility was structured and run under the state and through the administration. But my particular focus happened to be on the criminal prosecution. And I will say, you know, the governor also commissioned the report, the Pearlstein report. And obviously, that was helpful to us as well. So important issue, obviously. My office continues to investigate other long-term care facilities and nursing home facilities as we've seen through this pandemic.
Speaking of other long-term care facilities, we know what a disproportionate number of deaths from COVID-19 occurred in those facilities. There was a story in the Globe the other day by Todd Wallach, who's done brilliant work on transparency or lack of transparency in government in general. And he wrote that the Baker administration was not complying with the law to report the number of cases and deaths at nursing homes and other senior facilities. And experts were saying it made it harder to both contain and identify the outbreaks. Are you involved in any fashion in ensuring that there is compliance with the law that the governor signed, I think, just 3 months ago?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, my team has been all over this from the very beginning. And in fact, it was true that long-term care facilities, nursing home facilities initially weren't reporting. And there was some unclarity about whether or not they actually needed to report. That was then remedied by DPH and the state, which is a good thing. But obviously, it's something we need to continue to watch. And I think this whole pandemic has revealed so much, Jim. I mean, all the existing racial disparities that exist across our various systems. And also, it's revealed just the sorry state of affairs when it comes to how we treat our seniors who are among the most vulnerable. And it's a broader issue, right? You need more resources, you need more support, and certainly you need more oversight. And you'll see that, from our office. As I say, we have a number of investigations underway.
We only have a minute left. If I can circle back to the debate, that's something that bothered me from last night. Joe Biden was asked a question about I know you're not crazy about the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, and nor is Joe Biden. He was asked the question, what do the Democrats do if this nomination is slammed through by the Republicans in the most hypocritical of fashions? He said he didn't want to answer the question. And in fact, he went so far, according to the Washington Post last week, of his campaign saying he was annoyed with Ed Markey, who said that if they do it, we should end the filibuster when we take over the Senate, assuming they do, and we should add justices to the court. Where are you on that whole issue of expanding the court if Donald Trump is successful with Mitch McConnell in confirming Judge Barrett? We have a minute.
Well, I am in court right now today defending the Affordable Care Act, defending civil rights laws, defending laws that protect workers. So many fronts, Jim. And obviously, this nomination is really concerning because it puts all of those laws and programs that are so vital to the fabric of the lives of so many Americans at risk. So my answer is everything should be on the table. But right now, it's about winning the election. And by the way, something he said last night, Donald Trump, that everybody should be denouncing is what he invited those Proud Boys to do. He not only embraced them, he enlisted their help. They are a hate group. They are a violent group. They were responsible for what happened in Charlottesville. They do have a presence in Massachusetts and across this country. And the fact that our president not only enlisted them, but gave them a microphone that they are using to rally their cause today is really concerning. But rest assured, voting will be protected here in Massachusetts. I will work across the country with my colleagues to make sure that the vote is protected and that everyone's vote is counted. But get out there, vote early, and make sure you have a plan.
You look good there at WGB. Oh, pardon me, at GBH we now call it. Maura Healey, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Attorney General. Thanks.
Great to see you, Jim. Be well.
You too.